Good morning, fifth grade. This morning I'm going to go over answers for chapter 6, lesson 3, and also show you what to highlight in your book for your quiz on lesson 3. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So, in lesson 3, you learned about the Bill of Rights and how even though our country had written a new constitution and a new plan of government, that there were still a lot of problems with it, and some of the country wasn't happy with all parts of the Constitution. So you learned about two groups of people that kind of came out of this debate, and we had Federalists and Anti-Federalists. So Federalists were people who supported the Constitution, and then Anti-Federalists were the people that were against it. So for number one, based on these quotes, you had to write whether you thought these men were Federalists or Anti-Federalists. So Patrick Henry should have been pretty easy because we learned in the last lesson that he didn't really like the Constitution. So he was definitely an anti-federalist. He was very worried that the president could become a king. Alexander Hamilton was a Federalist. He thought the Constitution would help the country. He actually even wrote a bunch of papers, a bunch of essays to try and convince other leaders that this was what we needed to do to help our country. So make sure for Alexander Hamilton you have Federalist, and for Patrick Henry you have Anti-Federalist. So the first thing that we need to highlight for our quiz here is Bill of Rights. You need to know that that is something that protects citizens' basic rights. And I made a little note here because there's another question that kind of relates to this. What I want you to remember for the quiz is that anti-federalists were worried the Constitution would take advantage of citizens. So anti-federalists were concerned that the Constitution took too many rights away from the people, and that the people of our country would not be protected under this new form of government. So make sure you know those two things. If you want to just write that over here in this blank area, you can, but make sure you include that because there's a question like that on your quiz. All right, moving on. So our leaders have to get the Constitution ratified. And that means that they have to convince the states to vote and agree to follow this new form of government. So for number 2, you had a timeline here at the bottom of your pages that show you the dates of each state and when they ratified the Constitution. And they asked you to circle the date when enough states had ratified it to take effect. And that happened on June 21st when New Hampshire ratified it. So when New Hampshire ratified it, that was the amount of states that we needed in order to start actually using this form of government. Some definitions that you need to know on these pages: you need to know what amendments are. Those are additions. And then you need to know what due process means. Due process means you have the right to fair treatment. So that means like if you get arrested or go to court, you have the right to fair treatment and a fair trial. Okay, number 3, you had to describe why people are celebrating. So here we have a painting of a parade in New York City. So why would people be celebrating? Well, you should have put something about like how they're happy that we have a new plan of government. They're happy that our government is going to be working better now. Usually when people have some kind of celebration, they're happy about whatever it is that's going on. All right. So the rest of this section went into just basically, okay, what is the Bill of Rights? Because a lot of the anti-federalists said we will not agree to this new form of government until there's something that protects our rights. So that's why the Bill of Rights was added. So on page 208 here, you have all of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is what we call the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. And you have a description here of each one. And you had to, for number 4, you had to pick one of the amendments and explain why you think it's important. So there's really no right or wrong answer here as long as you picked one of these amendments and explained why you think it's important. So you might have picked the First Amendment and said, I think freedom of religion is important because I like to be able to worship and practice my religion however I want. Okay, so really as long as you picked one of these and explained why you think it's important and your explanation makes sense, then you're correct. You do need to know what the Sixth Amendment is for your quiz. That's why I highlighted it. So the Sixth Amendment makes sure that you have a right to a trial by jury. So a trial by jury means that there's going to be a group of your peers that listen to your trial, and then they vote and decide on whether you're innocent or guilty. So that is one of our rights as American citizens, that you have a right to a trial by jury. So make sure you know the Sixth Amendment. That's the last thing on your quiz. All right, so number 5, you had to draw a picture to illustrate the First Amendment and then write a little caption. You probably drew something, maybe like a church or a cross. You might have drawn a newspaper or maybe people protesting. There's a lot of different things that you could draw. As long as you drew something that matches the First Amendment, you're good to go. All right, for number 6, why is the Bill of Rights important and why would a lot of states not ratify it? Well, again, we've talked about this already. The Bill of Rights was important because a lot of states wanted to make sure that our rights are protected and that the government can't take them away. So that's why they wanted to have the Bill of Rights before they would ratify the Constitution. And then number 7 is you're looking at some old posters from 1787. Some of them have Federalist points of view and some of them have anti-Federalist. What would one of the posters say? Well, it depends on what poster you're looking at. If you're looking at a Federalist poster, it might talk about how they support the Constitution, how it's going to make our country better. If it's an anti-Federalist poster, it might say, we're going to end up with another king again. Don't ratify the Constitution. All right, so that is everything that you guys need for your Lesson 3 quiz. Make sure you guys go through your book and copy the same highlights that I have, so then you can use it on the quiz. There's still some of you that I don't think are copying your highlights down or using your book because you're not getting good quiz grades. And if I'm telling you the 5 things that are on your quiz and then you highlight them and copy them, you should do very well on the quiz. Of course, if you have any questions, you can email me. Also, don't forget, if you're in the middle of the quiz and there's something that's confusing, you can email me before you submit your quiz. There's no time limit. I've had a couple students do that as well. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And as always, I hope you guys are happy and healthy. Bye, everybody.